A total of 93 people were displaced following a fire that killed 2 people here in Hamburg in Hout Bay. Now I'm going to ask my colleague to show you what remains of some of the people's homes. Remember that when the fire broke out, obviously people had to be moved, those who were affected and the neighbors of, some of the fire victims. They were moved to a community hall, some of them saying that they refused to come back and build here because of the state of this particular location. It is located on a mountain slope, so it's been very difficult for them to maintain existence in this area because of sand falling down from the mountain. Now, up there is where one victim passed away, so they've already been given iron structures to try and rebuild their homes. A few of them are here who have started rebuilding, and a few structures, as we see, are already standing, but many of them still at the community hall saying there is no way they can come and rebuild on this type of situation, saying that it needs to be first reblocked and cleared by the city in order for them to to start the rebuilding process. Now it shows here that there was obviously life. There's a lot of evidence of life. I mean, right there is a bed, what used to be a bed, and down there is where the fire broke out. I mean, iron zincs have, like I said, already been issued to some of the victims to start building their homes. Now I have with me Roscoe Jacobs from the Hout Bay Civic Association, who are calling on the new mayor, Plato, to declare this a local disaster.
Yes, that's correct, Athi. We're calling on the mayor to make the declaration that this was a local disaster. And this call comes as a result of the city stating that they don't have funding to actually stabilize or to reblock this area. The Ida informal settlement was supposed to be upgraded, and this hasn't happened. It was supposed to start in October when the fire broke out, and now we're being told that there's no money. So if they have money to upgrade the informal settlements, there should be a perfect opportunity for them to actually start doing that, to implement that. So we're saying that it needs to be declared that, and we don't believe the city's excuses about time frames, because the previous mayor made such a declaration just on the other side of Hout Bay in Imizamieto a month after that particular fire, and we understand that that was much more bigger, but we're saying that this is something where there are special circumstances, and that is why we're saying that the city needs to make that declaration.
And so what were the outcomes from your last meeting? I recall you met with Councillor Xanthia Limburg. What came out of that meeting, and have you had any further updates from the city?
So we were told in that meeting that the city would come and show us where land is, where people could be relocated. And since that has happened, they've come out, but they haven't been able to show us where land is. In fact, as the Hout Bay Civic Association, we've told them that there are 2 pieces of land that the city bought in this area for housing. Now we're told other things are going to happen on that land, and we're saying that people should then be relocated there, and they should be allowed then to build their houses. If government is failing to do this, then allow people to do their themselves that service of providing themselves a house. There's land in Hout Bay, and that land needs to be utilized for that. So we've told them where these parcels of land are, and we haven't heard anything from them since. So promises were made similar to them, and the excuses for the actual declaration, we're still waiting on them to come forward. And this is lessons that we've learned from the previous mayor and the fire that happened in Imizamieto. That is why people have put up structures. They don't necessarily stay here, but it's to prevent anybody else from occupying their piece of land. But also in the previous fire, the mayor was very clear, the previous mayor was very clear in terms of saying to officials, let us not make excuses. You're saying that things can't happen because of these frameworks or because of these acts, so bring that information to us and show us where in the Disaster Risk Management Act of South Africa it states that you can't make a declaration, a local fire, a local disaster, if there's a time frame that's allocated to that particular process. Because the previous one, it was a month later and a declaration was made. Dan Plato has the executive authority to make such a declaration, and that is why we're calling on him to make that declaration.
All right, Roscoe Jacobs from the Hout Bay Civic Association calling on the new mayor, Plato, to declare this a local disaster. Now, he speaks of another fire that broke out in Imizamoyetu. That's another informal settlement area here in Hout Bay that has been affected by several deadly fires. And in fact, the Western Cape is notorious to these type of fires. I mean, last week we were in Khayelitsha where hundreds of people were also displaced when a fire broke out, and one person lost their lives in that fire as well. And I mean, residents there, similarly to these residents, facing the same challenges, saying, I'm going to ask my colleague to actually pan and show you as I'm speaking about this, saying that it is very difficult for them to continue living in this condition, saying that there's a very high risk of fires breaking out again because of the way in which these structures are built, saying they're so built close to each other that there are no fire breaks in between. It's so easy when one fire breaks out from one shack to affect the next one because of the little space between these structures that are put in these informal settlements. We'll leave it here for now. Back to you in studio.